That's Hardy with Give Heaven Some Hell, and the man himself joins us now. I know you co-wrote that one with Hunter Phelps, Ben Johnson and Ashley Gorley, but tell me, how did it take shape?
It started with the title and the idea, and it was so inspiring just to have that title, to have the opportunity to write it. We all come from Christian backgrounds, so we know how to speak that language, like in the bridge of the song about the kid, and you know he's in heaven because he's accepted Christ, and this whole thing. And I think it just was a perfect combination of us kind of knowing what we want to say and coming from that background, and just everything was just perfect that day, man. And I feel like sometimes we didn't really write it. It just sort of happened to us.
Give Heaven Some Hell features on your debut album, A Rock, which is out on September 4th. You've been involved in the writing of all 12 of these tracks, but there's also co-writes on there with some of the best in Nashville. I mean, aside from the names that we've already mentioned, Hillary Lindsay and Jesse Joe Dillon, and the album was produced by, it seems, country music's go-to guy at the minute, Joey Moy. I've been listening to this album ever since I was sent it, and I get something different out of it every time I go to it. What can you tell me about the writing and recording of it?
My favorite little factoid that I like to tell about this record is that I wrote 12 songs. I held 12 songs and we cut 12 songs. We didn't plan it like that. It just happened. My manager and everybody at Big Loud was like, hey, just so you know, we're planning on putting a record out. Let's just say it was a year ago today. He was like, we want to put a record out on you a year from now. So you need to start thinking about writing, for your record and what you want to say. And so I just was kind of conscious of that. I wanted to be a little more serious and show a little bit more of my sensitive and serious side with this record. So it just was so intuitive. Every single song on this record, the second we got done, I just knew I wanted it for me. If it was for me, I knew it. And we would put it on hold and we would cut every one of them.
Wow. And last September, you released Hixtape Volume 1, which, I was blown away by the sheer level of collaborations on this thing and the names involved. People like Dustin Lynch, Morgan Wallen, Trace Adkins, Keith Urban, and even the late Joe Diffie. Yeah. How did you get all those people together?
I was not buddies with Trace, Joe Diffie, Trace Lawrence, and Zach Wilde. Big Loud helped me reach out to those guys to ask if they wanted to be on the project. But, the rest of them, I had written with everyone else on the record that sang on it. And so I was fortunately able to send them a personal text and just say, yo, I'm doing this project. Here's who's already on it. I would love to have you on it. I think it's going to be huge. And I would love to send you the song that I want you to sing. It was really organic. 17 out of 18 people said yes. So we got really lucky with the permission and stuff as well.
One Beer with Devin, Dawson and Alaina, which obviously originally appeared on Hixtape, that is burning up the charts right now. I know you co-wrote that one with Hillary Lindsay and Jake Mitchell. I think it's the catchiest thing on country radio at the minute, and I also love the fact that it shows off a sort of moody side to Alaina as well. What can you tell me about that track?
I don't know how I cultivated that whole idea, but it just kind of came to me, and I got to Jake's studio that day, and it was before Hillary got there, and he started playing this riff that you hear at the beginning of the song. And I told him I had this idea called One Beer, where I want one beer to lead to, a child, but in the verses you tell the story of the child. And as he was playing it, I just kind of freestyled that very first line, one beer turns into a lit cigarette. That whole first line, I said, let's just keep it there and let's let Hillary get here and we'll talk with her about it. But it just kind of came together. And again, I just texted Devin and Lauren. They both knew that I was putting this thing together. So they were both excited when I asked them if they wanted to be a part of it. And they came in and just killed it. It was perfect.
Correct me if any of this is wrong, but from reading up about you, I get that you were born and raised in Philadelphia, Mississippi, and influenced, I believe, by John Mayer. You wrote your first song around the age of 17. Taking the advice of your older sister, she suggested that you move to Nashville and try and land a publishing deal, which I believe that proved very eye-opening when you then discovered the industry behind the songs.
Pretty much. She moved to Nashville. She went to Belmont. She majored in music business. She called me one day and was like, hey, I heard that you have been writing some songs. And she was like, look, there's a whole industry up here. You can get paid a salary to write songs for artists. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I was in junior college. I wasn't even majoring in anything. It was liberal arts, which means I have no idea what I want to do. And so, I just moved up and realized that there was an entire industry of about 1,000 people in publishing alone, which I guess doesn't sound like a lot, but Nashville's a small town when you narrow it down to the music industry.
You got a degree in songwriting from Middle Tennessee State University and then signed your publishing deal in 2014. I've been to Nashville a couple of times myself, and I get that the place is just so competitive. So looking back, what do you think were some of the key moments in making things start to happen for yourself?
I think my first cut ever was a song called I Should Go to Church Sometime, and I think that had a lot to do with it. Everybody always says when you get a cut, you get more, you get 2, and then you get 4, and then they just sort of start rolling in. And to be honest, that's what happened for me. I don't know how to explain it, man. It just finally kind of started happening. And then the Big Loud crew, before I even signed with them, they started really taking a liking to my songs. And so I started getting cuts on like Chris Lane, Morgan Wallen, and Florida Georgia Line. And that really opened the windows as well.
And speaking of which, I believe Tyler Hubbard from FGL, he seems to be the guy who has been quite influential in both pushing you and giving you the confidence to then establish yourself as an artist and a singer.
Yeah, that's right. Him being a very established artist, it kind of gave me the confidence because I was like, well, okay, Tyler's legit. He's in a very successful band, so maybe I should do this. But the icing on the cake was Joey Moy called me out of nowhere. He was like a huge inspiration to me. He was a badass, if you will.
Yeah.
And he called me and just said, dude, I'll cut a record on you tomorrow. And so that was it. I said, okay, I'm doing this.
And is it true yourself, Devin Dawson and Jordan Schmidt wrote God's Country on a Thursday, and by the following Monday, Blake Shelton had cut it?
That is 100% true. I think he might have cut it on a Tuesday, but yeah, it was about 2.5 days of actual work days, and he cut it.
Wow. I've heard you say in interviews in the past that when you moved to Nashville, one of your main goals was to one day get a song that you'd written recorded by Blake. So to achieve that and then for it to become this massive award-winning hit. And also what I loved about it as well is it reminded us that Blake Shelton has this other side to him with a bit more grit and substance, with songs like Old Red.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of brought him back to that thing, and it was refreshing for him. And I think that's why it was such a big hit. It was almost a little bit of shock value because he hadn't done something like that in so long. I think that just sealed the deal for him and it being a hit for him.
And God's Country is nominated for Single and Song of the Year at the ACMs, and you yourself as well are nominated for Songwriter of the Year. What does it mean to you to get that recognition?
It means the world, even just to know that those are voted on by ACM members, which is basically the Nashville community, and it means the world to get that acceptance just from your peers and the people that you work with.
Last year you were on 2 big massive tours with both Florida Georgia Line and Morgan Wallen, and nobody throws a party like those guys. What was that experience like?
I think I'm still hungover.
Just finally, last week I spoke to Morgan and there was one thing I forgot to ask him about. Is it true that when you were on tour you pierced his ear with a guitar string?
Yeah, that's 100% true. I had the biggest adrenaline rush ever.
Thank you so much for giving me some time, man. Good luck with the album.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it. Have a good one.